So we're going to transition to dilution as a solution to pollution panel, which is, I actually enjoy saying that, that's fun. We have Gillian with us, as well as Aileen, Erin, and Lisa. So welcome. And they asked me what was in my bucket in the picture, and actually I told them kale, but I was wrong looking at it. It's actually beets. So now you know. All right, thank you so much, and have a wonderful presentation.
So good afternoon. My name is Gillian Mittelstaedt. I'm going to give a few brief introductory slides and some context for our session today, and then I'll go ahead and pass it over to my colleague. So as Mita said, dilution is a solution to pollution, and it's a little ironic we just came after the water quality folks, because as those of you who might have worked in the environmental field know, that was sort of a construct that's been present for a long time. We've really never used that term in our field of air quality. But we are approaching that. So our subtitle is using ventilation and filtration to reduce exposure to indoor air hazards. And we have 4 of us presenting today. I wanted to show you just a few pictures because we are here virtual and show you that we are not just avatars, but we exist. So on the left, there's Erin, McTigue, myself, and Lisa. And we had the privilege of meeting Winona LaDuke a few years ago at a tribal conference. Aileen is in the picture on the right that you can see there with some of the folks at the Tulalip tribe setting up a flag program. So I'm also going to mention that if you're in Region 10, we represent HUD, EPA, and the Tribal Healthy Homes Network. And we do a lot of technical assistance and outreach to tribes. But some of our, I think, most valuable work is when we collaborate together to work with tribes on housing, health, and environment. So please let us know if there's anything we can do as a team to assist you. Again, I'm Gillian. I'm the director of the Tribal Healthy Homes Network. I'm going to first begin by just going into some context briefly. So indoor air quality has been an issue for quite some time, but now we have a changing nature within our field. Homes, including the built environment, which is our schools and our community buildings, they're increasingly becoming a refuge from excessive heat, wildfire smoke, flooding, and now viruses with known aerosol transmission. And this is problematic because we already spend about 95% of our time indoors. Now we're having to spend more time indoors, which means less activity outdoors, as well as more impacts to our mental health. So it's very challenging. I'm going to break this idea down a little bit to explain what exactly is changing. Traditional, which is a strange way to put it, but sort of this indoor air hazards, if you've not worked in this field, you still may have very much heard these terms. We talk about secondhand tobacco smoke as an issue, wood smoke, radon, combustion gases, lead paint, mold and moisture, chemicals both from household products and those used for building, and then allergens, dust mites, pet, fur, pollens. These indoor air hazards, the source control was really our primary strategy, and it was followed by ventilation and filtration. But in most cases, we could address through how we built, designed, or did interventions that we could address the sources themselves. Now we have emerging indoor air hazards, which you might say are climate related. In most cases, they are. We have wildfire smoke events, which is changing from the standpoint of infiltration in our indoor structures, the levels of particulates, the duration, and the frequency that we have these events. Heat events, flooding events, which are resulting in extensive mold from water damage. And some of the literature says that viruses and the increasing frequency of pandemics is associated with deforestation and a few other variables. So SARS-CoV-2 has some relationship to what's changing. In all of these cases, ventilation and filtration are really our primary strategy because source control has limitations. It's a much more at a systems-wide level to address wildfire smoke and heat events. So today I'm going to wrap up, but I'm going to pass this on to my colleagues who work much more closely on the technical and the applied side and funding of ventilation and filtration. I will close really quickly by saying that if you're an air quality, environmental, natural resources, water quality professional, but you want to talk about ventilation and filtration technologies and practices in your tribal community. Traditionally, I know in a lot of my colleagues, we focus on existing homes and working with residents to educate and inform and empower them about what can be done. But our conversation now really needs to extend to facilities and buildings, operations, and maintenance staff. When housing retrofits and rehab projects take place in your communities, talking with them about best available technologies, and of course new construction, so that what we are building is, we're building it right, and I shouldn't say right, but with the newest available technology. So I'm going to leave now and click over for Aileen, who's going to take you into the technical journey. And Aileen, go ahead and tell me when you're ready, and I'll advance your slides.
I'm ready. Thank you, Gillian, and thank you, everybody, for allowing me to give you just some explanation about indoor air and how air moves through a building. Next slide. So what is the problem? So as you know, if you've been on the West Coast, you've had an amazing summer with wildfire smoke. But it's not the only issue that we have with our outdoor air. Obviously, wood smoke and dust on our roads. Next slide. And then what about our indoor air? So it's, as Gillian said, we spend a lot of time on our inside these days, 90 to 95%. And our indoor air actually can be up to 5 times as polluted as our outdoor air. And as you see by these pictures, mainly from a lot of the things that we do and bring inside, such as cooking, painting, cleaning, drying, washing, and things that we think smell nice, which are actually can be highly toxic. But there's particles, as you see in the upper left, the dust, you got formaldehyde, ozone, and carbon dioxide. All of these things can contribute to poor indoor air quality. Next. And what this slide shows you here is you see 2 lines here, one purple and one blue. And what this is demonstrating, these are 2 purple air monitors. One is inside Tela, and one is outside, which is the Taylor Environmental Learning. Anyway, it's up at Tulalip. And what it's showing you is actually what is outside is also the same amount of pollutants that you actually get on the inside. So as you can see, these graphs sort of follow one another as they work themselves out. And this is actually what happened during part of our wildfire event earlier this month. Next. So to give you some idea of what goes on in a building, the first thing we have is natural ventilation. You have the wind effect, which is air approaches the building and you have a positive and negative pressure on the building, which can create airflow through the building. Then you get the stack effect, and you'll have cool air down below. As it warms, it rises, and it's all basically the same principle as a chimney. Then once you start adding things inside a building, such as a stove or a furnace or a fan or a heater, you get all sorts of ways that we can change how the air comes into, moves through, and out of a building. Next. So what this particular slide shows these are the common air leaks. Now, most homes today are not built airtight. And what you see, so you'll get air, and as you see with the blue arrows, as air leaks into the building from vent fans, from dryer vents, as it comes in low, like we saw through the stack effect, right? It comes up, and the red arrows are showing as heat escapes. So air is leaky, and as air comes in, it brings with it a lot of the pollutants that we find outdoors, as we saw this summer with the wildfire smoke or earlier this month. Next slide. So what we're going to do here is actually talk about mechanical ventilation. So in most cases, when buildings do get tight and you don't have operable windows and things like that, we provide ventilation that provides fresh air and exhausts the stale air at the same time. So what we've circled here is how the fresh air intake comes in. There's a filter right there that's going to filter whatever air brings with it, whether it be wood smoke or dust or particles or whatever. This example, for example, is an HRV or ERV, a heat recovery ventilator. When you have air coming in and air exhausting at the same time, the exhausting air actually preheats the incoming air so that you're not, warming up cold air. And once again, as you exit the house, there's another filter that it goes through, and then it exhausts itself. So it's constantly an in and out, but there's filters. Next. And in this, and the designs of these structures, the mechanical ventilation, can be very, very simple. From this building on the left, where you have your fresh air intake, you have it coming through the HRV, this is an ERV, an energy recovery core, where it distributes it throughout the building, and then it comes back through that energy recovery core and gets exhausted out. The building on the right, I just wanted to show how complex these systems can be. You have this highly engineered system where multifactorial, multi-layered buildings with different purposes going on in different rooms, different needs, everything is so different, and they have to be highly engineered. Next. So whether we have natural or mechanical ventilation, we are going to need filtration, and that was made perfectly clear earlier this month with the wildfire smoke, and also with COVID, as people are finding. Okay, so on the left, as you see, portable filtration units, everything from HEPA. You have all these different things to a do-it-yourself fan using a box fan and furnace filters. On the right are examples of whole building filtration. And what they're finding is that as we are moving back into the indoors and back into offices, having both a portable filtration unit at the work site where you are, as well as upgrading the whole building filtration, is going to become more and more crucial. Next. So all these different filtration types. What do we have? We have the list here, and I'm going to go over these some quickly, some not so quickly, just to give you an overview. So next slide. First, we start out with carbon filters. These are just carbon filters that remove basically VOCs and maybe some dust, okay? There is no byproduct formation. They are basically just collection devices, okay? So next, then we have HEPA, high efficiency portable air cleaners, such as this one. HEPA filters are generally equivalent to MERV 16. And you're going to hear different levels. There's HEPA and there's MERV. MERV is a rating that you'll see in furnaces. HEPA applies totally to portable air cleaners. Okay? And with HEPA, there's no byproduct formation at all with these cleaners. Next. Now you have MERV, which stands for Minimum Efficiency Reporting Value. It ranges from MERV 1 to MERV 16 based on the average removal efficiency across these particle ranges. So you have 0.3 to 1 micron, 1 to 3 micron, 3 to 10 micron. There is no byproduct formation using these type of filters. And then for home use, if you're concerned about the small particles, those that are very tiny, you really want to choose a furnace filter with at least a MERV 13 rating, or as high as you can, given the HVAC unit that's in your system. So you don't want to go and installing a higher MERV value furnace filter unless you have checked with the manufacturer to make sure that the system can indeed handle the increased pressure differential of these furnace filters. Next. ESP, or electrostatic precipitators. These are the electronic air cleaners that you can have on your furnace. Okay, so what happens? There's an electric charge that gets put on these metal plates. They can attract particles to them. There is a minimal pressure drop and a minimal impact on the HVAC system. However, as they are used and as they collect particles, their efficiency decreases. You have to clean these plates. A lot of them can be taken out, put into your dishwasher and all of that, okay? They can, however, sometimes have high ozone and nitrogen oxide generation rates when they first start up. So when that electrical pulse first crosses that plate, it can generate a little bit of ozone. In terms of those folks who have asthma or very serious lung issues, you might reconsider this and go on to a MERV filter instead. Next. Then you have ion generators. These use high voltage, a charge, it produces a negative ion that attaches to these particles, okay? Then they're either collected either on different plates or become attracted to each other and deposited as dust in your room. They generate ozone, so they are not recommended at all because ozone is a very unstable form of oxygen and actually can destroy lung tissue. Next. So here are the ozone generators themselves. Once again, not recommended, okay? Any ozone generators that are sold as air cleaners intentionally produce ozone. No federal government agency has approved these devices for use in occupied spaces. Having said that, they do have very specific uses for mold and smoke damage after a fire. However, when they are put in and when they are after use and somebody goes in to turn them off, they are on full hazmat gear, including with oxygen, because you do not want to expose yourself to high concentrations of ozone. Next. So this is UVC, ultraviolet. So these are one of the up and coming or have been used for a while. Now people are looking, because of COVID, for the magic bullet, so to speak, about some kind of filtration unit that can be added to an existing filtration system. So UVC can inactivate viral, bacterial, and fungal organisms. It does not remove the organisms, okay? It just inactivates them. They can be effective at high intensity, but once again, they require special PPE, personal protective equipment, to prevent damage to your eyes and or skin from overexposure. You have to be careful using them. There are different types of disinfection systems, and I've just listed them there. There's induct air, upper air, induct surface disinfection, and a portable room disinfection. ASHRAE has got this lovely document on filtration and air cleaning, which actually explains this in much greater detail than what I can do here. Next. Then you have this new type of, actually it's not so new, but it's becoming new and more used in existing buildings, is bipolar ionization. So this is called needlepoint ionization or other ion and reactive oxygen air cleaner. So what they do is they produce very reactive ions, and both positive and negative, okay, that react with airborne contaminants, including viruses and bacteria, okay? The design of the system can be modified to create mixtures, but they can create ozone and hydroxyl radicals and superoxide anions. Now, the caveat with these systems is that convincing, scientifically rigorous, peer-reviewed studies do not currently exist on this emerging technology. Manufacturer data should be carefully considered. Some of them have been tested by independent companies. I've seen one company that has one independent verification from an independent lab that produces 0.005 parts per million of ozone. You know, let's get these things tested independently and use over time, and we'll see how these work. Next. So there are lots of reference guides available. The ASHRAE position document on filtration and air cleaning is a lovely sort of condensed explanation of the various resources that are out there for you. And thank you.
Thanks, Aileen. Hello, I'm Lisa Stewart, and as mentioned earlier, I work in the Office of Native American Programs at the Department of Housing and Urban Development. We have two offices in Region 10. One is based in Seattle, and the other is based in Anchorage. And we work with tribes, villages, umbrella corporations, tribally designated housing entities, and also nonprofits as well. So what I want to do is kind of give you a really brief overview of what HUD has done related to funding COVID and some of the projects that folks have done, utilizing some of the things that both Aileen and Gillian mentioned, and then also tell you about a new funding opportunity and how you can help participate with housing in dealing with issues related to ventilation and filtration. So can we go to the next slide? Yes. So yeah, our COVID-19 funding from HUD was focused around preparation, prevention, and response. And so that meant having a lot of flexibility. In order for that flexibility to happen, we had to issue a number of waivers to the statute and regulations that govern us, which is called, in shorthand, NAHASDA, the Native American Housing and Self-Determination Act. And some of the waivers that were provided allowed tribes to provide all types of different services for over-income folks, but also do different types of activities like food distribution and things that normally wouldn't be done under NAHASDA. It was divided into two sections: the Indian Housing Block Grant CARES, which is based on the formula allocation for each tribe or TDHE, or sorry, it's based for each tribe. I think one of the things I want folks to understand about NAHASDA is that every tribe or village gets a specific allocation, then makes a determination whether those funds are going to go directly to their own housing department or to the umbrella corporation or to a tribally determined housing entity. So IHBG CARES, that's formula-based, and that was distributed out. And in Alaska, that was approximately 28.4 million, and combined in Oregon, Washington, and Idaho, that was over 15 million. And the ICDBG CARES, which was a first-come, first-serve type of funding opportunity nationally, that provided $100 million that was distributed over 6 rounds, and within Region 10, that was a distribution of more than $33 million. Now, folks used a lot of this funding to do things like sanitize buildings, do rehab, putting in shields, doing HVAC assessments, and of course also providing personal air purifiers and filtration for individual houses, as well as any type of systems care that folks might have needed on the ground. So I want to shift to the next slide. That's kind of what we did in the past. What's happening now, and what I really want to urge you all to really dig into, is a new funding opportunity called the Indian Housing Block Grant Competitive. We call it a NOFA for the Notice of Funding Availability, and that is $100 million. This is a national competition where funds are going to be prioritized for projects that are related to construction, rehabilitation, everything around increasing housing stock, developing housing stock, acquiring existing units, anything related to housing, related infrastructure. Only requirement is that applicants have to have been allocated the Indian Housing Block Grant funds in order to be eligible to apply. And the maximum amount that can be received is $5 million. So the reason I bring this up is because this is a great opportunity for you all to work with your housing entities, departments, the tribe, to really talk about what type of design ideas could be used with respect to ventilation and filtration, kind of either in the design stage if it's new construction, or if it's a rehab, because we know the smoke events are not going to go away. We have COVID now. We don't even know if we're done with the first season of it. So we're going to have these instances repeating, and this is a really, really unique opportunity to provide some great internal technical assistance, if you will, for your housing departments and entities. And also, especially I think for new construction, really developing these systems ahead of time. I want to urge you to check out our website at hud.gov/code talk. There is a training on the SNOFA next week, and it will be, it's 4 days. There's an agenda. You can pick which areas you want to sit in on. But I just want to, again, just reiterate that you all are a huge knowledge base and can share a lot of your knowledge and understanding about ventilation and filtration with housing folks if they don't already know.
And to continue on talking about funding, I want to pass it over to Erin in EPA.
Hi, everyone. And hi, Mita. I know we're running up against our time, but I just have about 4 or 5 minutes. Hopefully that will work out okay. You can always cut me off if you need to. And it's good to be back. I was here a couple of days ago presenting with Rhonda Ketzel from CDC on COVID and indoor air related resources. So I won't dig into that a whole lot, but hopefully we'll give you some ideas of different resources you can pull up later, since it'll be just a quick overview. I'm with our EPA Region 10 Travel Air Program, and just wanted to highlight a couple of areas where EPA can provide support on indoor air. And of course, a number of you, probably most of you in the environmental programs are receiving an EPA grant either through GAP or Clean Air Act funds or otherwise. And so although we're not a housing agency, we do have a role in providing some support on indoor air through technical assistance, coordinating different agencies and funders, and pulling together technical assistance providers, including funding some of them, like Gillian's group at Tribal Healthy Homes Network and others you're probably familiar with, Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium and ITEP. But because this issue is complex and multifaceted, as we've been hearing, the approach is often to braid different funds together. I have a couple of examples listed here, but there are others that I'll be mentioning as well. And really, I do want to just draw your attention to the website at the bottom, tribalindoor-air-funding.org. Gillian's and group, the Tribal Healthy Homes Network, put together a really comprehensive funding directory where you can input specific needs, and it'll bring up a whole list of different funding opportunities and the details about them. And they're constantly updating that, so take a look at that. And just to highlight a couple examples of how tribes in our region have been doing really amazing work in this area. The Quinault Indian Nation has done work braiding together different resources and bringing in technical assistance. And just, recently and currently, I should say, Tia Allen with Quinault with their air program has been doing a HEPA filter loan program to homes who are some of the highest risk for indoor air issues and health issues, elders, children, people with existing health issues, and also handing out some Healthy Homes kits, or the Air Matters kits, which I recommend you take a look at on the Tribal Healthy Homes Network website as well. Tulalip has also been doing this, pulling together utility funds through Bonneville Power Administration, which many people might not know about, to provide heat pumps alongside Healthy Homes toolkits, getting some support from the county there with weatherization work. You'll see a satisfied customer here in the picture, satisfied participant in the program. And I'll just very briefly skim over these resources that are available on EPA's website that are really popular when we work with tribes on healthy homes: the Mold Moisture in Your Home brochure, Green Building Guidance. Aileen mentioned the How to Select an Air Cleaner and Understand How to Use Them guidance. And then, of course, more recently, the Smoke Ready Toolbox for Wildfires has been developed with guidance on how to set up a clean room and do some of these interventions and upgrades that Aileen was talking about. You'll see in the bottom right, there's an image of the Colville put together this fantastic video, and there are others as well on how to build your own air cleaner. Tried it out myself this year during smoke season. You'll see my daughter here who's breathing in cleaner air. You'll see that on the right side, the HEPA filter that we just taped to our box fan was able to collect just that much particulate over just 4 days. So I was really happy to see that it was working, and she wasn't breathing in all that gunk, and neither were the rest of us. And then just to kind of round us out, wood heating resources, kids activity books, guides for how to build a wildfire or a firewood storage shed. And then, of course, with coronavirus too, I mentioned this the other day, but we have some really updated and useful information on our website around indoor air and coronavirus and other areas too, water quality, et cetera, but with some common answers or common questions and the answers to them as the science evolves. And finally, a resource you may not be aware of, there are a number of resources in the region where tribes can borrow air monitoring equipment or get technical support. So if you want to do some, on the ground assessing, we've got some purple air monitors now, and we're expanding that program that we can lend out. ANTHC, also funded by EPA, as well as the Tribal Air Monitoring Support Center to provide support for Alaska tribes and tribes across the country. So just wanted to mention that resource. And I think this is my final slide. Just wanted to highlight a couple of activities that are typically eligible under EPA grant funding sources, like the GAP program and the Clean Air Act program. So, getting trained, bringing in Tribal Healthy Homes Network to do some training, or others, working with other departments, as Lisa mentioned, collaborating with housing, working with them to, provide some technical assistance or apply for funding together, and then getting those tools out, like the box fan filters or portable air cleaners or other resources, and then sharing what you learned with other tribes in venues like this. So thanks for the opportunity. Sorry for running over a bit, and thanks for having us. Here's my contact info.
Wonderful. Thank you, Erin and Lisa, Aileen, and Gillian. It's been wonderful to have you on today, and I would like to invite you to stay on and listen to our closing remarks, and also we have a dance group after that.